Hello Bags, it's Jade. Welcome to an impressions video of Grounded. The beta or demo has pretty much coming to an end. Only a few days were around for it, but the full game is coming out on the 28th of July. What do I think about it? I'm going to give you my opinion, but straight up, I love this game. I think this is one of the best survival games to come out in years, and I can't wait to get onto this properly when it comes out as full release. Make sure you liked, you've subbed, let's go. It's the Grounded review. So first off, recap of what Grounded is. The premise, you've been shrunken down. Yes, like Honey I Shrunk the Kids, you are literally smaller than a blade of grass and just a little bit bigger than an ant. You're in a backyard and you've got to try and find a way to make yourself big again. But there's a lot more to it than that. There's a whole lot of science and investigations. This is going to be a story-led survival game too. It's got big open sandbox nature, but to really experience some of the parts and biomes and areas, you're going to have to take part in the story aspects, as it will unlock brand new items and gear so you can progress. Straight up, this is a survival game, and a hard one too. The creatures that you'll come across are pretty hardcore. You're going to have proper dedicated armor and weapons to take out some of the strongest ones, like these giant massive wolf spiders. This is a true survival game. Don't be fooled by the cute graphics. It really is a bit of a challenge. And that's what I really love about Grounded. You only got a chance to play it for 30 minutes and one day in the life of Grounded for the beta or the demo, and there were so many possibilities in just that 30 minutes. I could run off, I could try building myself a base, I could go and explore the huge map, I could go and take on lots of the bugs and insects, or just simply spend time trying to unlock new items. You have something called an analyzer, and the analyzers will be all around the map, and this is where you can pretty much research items so you can unlock more stuff in the future, like crafting benches, armor, weapons, etc. It's got all the tropes of every survival game going. If you've played Ark, Conan Exiles, maybe even The Forest, some of them older, more mature games, you are going to fit right in home with this game. It's got a lot of them aspects, but it does it already in a much better way. Grounded is going to be an early access game when it launches in July, so it's not fully complete. They're going to be adding more features over time, but already the base that they've already got is pretty stable. The foundations are there, and everything that I was playing ran really well. I didn't encounter any bugs or issues. It really was a bit of a dream to play. There are definitely some negatives which I'm going to rattle off soon, but for sure the overall experience tells me that Grounded could be one of the best survival games going, period. So it ticks all the boxes. You're going to need food, you're going to need water, but it's not as annoying as some other games. You get quite a lot out of the food and water that you're eating and drinking, and there's lots of combinations for finding liquid and water, whether it's dewdrops hanging from the grass, bits of juice in a carton or a can still, or going ahead and collecting your own dewdrops as you unlock more better crafting benches in the game. Food wise, you're going to be in a bunch of different stuff that's also going to replenish your health, and you can go ahead and cook as many of the little bug carcasses as you can get. The base building has got a really good way of doing it as well, and this borrows heavily from games like The Forest, where you put a blueprint down, and it pretty much means that you can plan stuff out without having to worry about using up vital resources. Make no mistake, Grounded is still a bit of a grindy survival game, and I'm saying that in a good way. Most survival fans want their game to be a bit grindy. They don't want their progress to be handed to them straight away, so you need to be able to go and gather and craft a bunch of stuff. I decided to make a huge tower out of grass in one session, and I only got about 4 or 5 levels high, doing nothing but just going ahead and trying to chop down as many blades of grass as I could. And you will need to build bases like this because the bugs, they will come and attack you occasionally. You'll also find that if you're building in the wrong spot, you'll keep coming across much more dangerous bugs. So you really is a necessity to make sure your base is in a good location and it's got some good defenses. I do hope that full game has much more of that though. I really would like to see more of a horde style stuff going on, where periodically, even if you think you're in a safe area, you could potentially come under attack every now and then from some bugs or some ants. But yeah, I really love the blueprint system. You put what you want down and then you just simply got to fill it up with the items that you go and find. And it's just quick, easy and simple, and it really helps with planning out what you want to build. There's multiple tiers of building. I didn't get a chance to unlock some of the other stuff, but you can go ahead and reinforce your bases with all sorts of new building set tiles. Exploration is one of its strongest points. It's really fun going around a backyard. All them dreams about what it'd be like to be small or being in the Honey I Shrunk the Kids movie are pretty much here. You've got loads of different locations and you'll find all sorts of crazy little stuff going around. Whether it's a can of juice that's been popped down or whether it's the head of some sort of toy, there's loads of little landmarks to keep you engrossed. There's all sorts of things you can help as well progressing. The map itself is a little basic. I think it would be better to maybe try something a bit more colourful and a bit more brighter. Otherwise, I kind of get the idea that it's meant to be a bit more of a scientific map. And that all ends with the story, the idea that you've been shrunken as part of some sort of science experiment and now you've got to collect science points. I haven't really worked out what the science points will do in the long run, whether or not they trigger next story segments and you just got to keep gathering enough. I couldn't really find anything that said what the science points actually will give you in the end. But each time you analyse one of the new items or resource, you will gain some of these science points. This probably leads me to one of maybe only a few negatives. It does seem a bit gated. The analyzer takes a few minutes to recharge, so at any one time you can only analyse 3 items before you have to wait a few minutes. Now it wasn't too long. I think most I had to wait was like 9 minutes. The shortest amount of time was only 7, but it seems like it's trying to slow you down a little bit so you can't just keep analysing everything and getting to the later stages as quickly as possible. That aside, as I said though, exploring is great. You'll come across all sorts of different biomes. You'll find dead grass areas, lots of flooded water sections, as well as lots of big trees, and I'm guessing there's going to be even more added during its lifetime in early access. For sure, it does get a bit overwhelming at times being in lots of the big grassy areas, as it's literally like being in a full-blown jungle. So you're definitely going to have to find a nice base spot that maybe isn't as surrounded by so many stalks of grass. The freedom as well, where you can pretty much build a base wherever you want, is really important in games like these, and it's definitely on show here that if you find the right spot you could have something really good going. I've found this juice carton which will perpetually refill with little juice drops quite a lot of the time, so it's always a good water source to have a base close by something like this. So I mentioned that a lot of the bugs might be quite difficult and this is a challenging survival game, and that for sure is true. Maybe not to the level of Ark Survival Evolved where you've literally got 60 different creatures or hundreds by the time it eventually arrived out of early access, but Grounded does a pretty good job of making the world feel pretty alive. You hear the bugs moving around, they've got their own little ecosystem, they'll often fight each other and do things, meaning you can come in and take the rest of the kill for yourself. So yeah, it's a really cool vibe. I like the environment, I like the atmosphere. It really did make me feel like I was in a living, breathing game, which some survival games pretty much get wrong. It really does feel like there's an ambience to it. With dewdrops falling as well, and sometimes petals and stuff falling randomly, it really has got a good vibe. The biomes themselves, as I said, really nice to explore. Definitely it feels, again, maybe progress is stopping a little bit. You're going to need to find certain things like a gas mask before you can go anywhere near like the stink bug area or where there's poisonous or toxic clouds, and also sunlight. There is parts of the map where it's so hot that you're going to need some sort of protection before you can go through that area, and I quite like that. That's more in keeping, that's more of a challenge rather than something like just analysing points keeping you back. When it comes to combat, I was really surprised that Grounded actually has pretty decent system in terms of like you've got a weak hand and a strong hand, so you can have 2 weapons equipped, or at least a torch and a strong hand to carry stuff. And yeah, even a small larvae bug can be quite a challenge if you haven't got a decent armor or a decent weapon set. It definitely reminded me of my first days in Ark Survival Evolved getting owned by a raptor on the beach. Now, I've played every survival game under the sun. It's my main channel's focus over the years, so I know what I'm talking about in terms of what ones do combat well. And it's not going to be on par with something that has got lots of counter moves or lots of abilities where you can do combos and stuff like that. But for sure, it's not as bad as some games I've played. It's pretty much on par with Ark Survival Evolved. Simply spam one button and you're going to keep attacking a creature in front of you. So maybe there could be some room to add something in it, that certain weapons need a certain different way to activate them or use them. I'm not talking just about a bow and arrow, but maybe you can make yourself a better sword and you have to maybe hold it a certain way, or it's only really useful if you power and melee it up. That's pretty much what Conan Exiles does to good effect for that game, and I think that could be pretty decent, mixing it up a little bit, finding different ways to take on different enemies using different weapons. There are ranged weapons in the game, but I found them pretty ineffective, well certainly the first starter bow, but when it comes to taking on some big bugs, you're going to need still a lot of distance between you and whatever you're shooting at if it's something dangerous like a ladybird. As you can see, my tiny little arrows weren't doing too much to stop this guy, but I love the effect that happens at night time or when bugs get angry. Normally, ladybugs won't hurt you unless you damage them, but they get upset, their eyes glow red, you better run. Even the smallest of creatures can still be a bit of a challenge when they're in packs. Things like mites and certain acid ants, well I call them acid ants, but they're actually technically lava. They're really dangerous when they're together. This is going to be a great game to play with your friends, so it's lucky that you can play with up to 4 players. Now, I don't think they're going to have crossplay just at launch. I could be wrong on that. I think it's going to be Xbox to Windows, and then Steam will just be on its own. But yeah, it's going to be really cool doing this with your friends or your family. For sure, it's probably geared towards someone's maybe first proper survival game if they're a bit younger. So if you've got young kids, they see you playing Ark or Conan or other games, and they want to play something themselves, but maybe you've stopped them in the past, who knows. This is going to be the one, but don't let that be misleading you. It is definitely not just a kids game. It's got such better refined mechanics in it than some of the other survival games. It takes some of the best stuff I've seen from some of the games like Ark and Conan and puts it all into this really nice aesthetic. There are some limitations though, and namely it's the UI and the system of controls. Like, I really don't like what they've done with the UI. It's pretty basic, it's pretty reminiscent of some other games, but there's way too much information going around on each single screen, and I just found it a bit of a chore. I kind of see why they've done this. It's obvious that other survival games don't explain themselves very well, and often you're having to look up wikis and things, how to work out how a weapon is made or what resources you need. So I get it, but I still think there's just a lot going on in every single UI page, whether it's the map, the quests or the crafting section. Also, swapping out between weapons on the controller anyway means you have to press L1 all the time to then go and choose what you want to actually pick. I think it's a much better system if they have it just like it is in Minecraft, where you can literally press the D-pad or the RB, LB buttons to scroll through your items on the hotbar on the bottom. It just got really annoying have to quickly move from throwing a rock or eating something to quickly having to use the L1 to pick a weapon. There's got to be some better shortcuts, and hopefully they'll add that, but probably not in a short space between the game coming out. But who knows, maybe they'll tighten it up during the early access period. I definitely feel like it'd be better just to be able to choose what weapons you want with. I might be being a bit harsh there, but literally that's pretty the only wrong thing I can find with this game, and it really isn't that bad, but just in scope in terms of the rest of it, it was the one letdown that just the crafting and using items was just a little bit finicky sometimes. What so many survival games get right is that sense of danger and that exploration. It's about making your own fun and also having random events happen, hence why survival is so good for streamers. You're streaming the game, something's going to happen, some random chance, a creature attacks you, or you go off on an adventure to go and get a certain resource. This game has got all of that, but it just seems to be a bit more tighter, a bit more coherent. It's got story elements to it, although I don't think it's going to be too overpowering. There's some focus for you to go through, but it's still got that creative sandbox nature to it too. I really hope they add other game modes like creative mode for people to really get to grips with practicing and stuff like that, and I can't wait to see what they do with extra biomes and stuff added to the game. It is made by Obsidian, so they've got a massively great pedigree, and I'm really looking forward to where this game can go in the future. It'd be really cool if there's any chance at all of making it beyond 4 players. It's the holy grail of what most survival fans ask for, having a server based game where you can host a server and have up to maybe a lot more people joining. I would say a game like this, even being able to have maybe up to 8 people could be really interesting, and maybe having some game modes where you could literally do team versus team. That would be something to think about while adding it. I don't think it's going to be that way though. It does look like they're just keeping it to 4-player co-op, and I totally get why, but that would be on my dream list to add a feature to it. The devs haven't ruled out maybe being able to tame the insects, and that would bring this game to a whole nother level. There's no doubt about it, Ark Survival Evolved is as popular as it is because you can tame the creatures. So even if there was a way where you can make some of these creatures your pets, not necessarily to just ride around on, but at least have maybe an ant follow you and be your little protective guard ant, that would be pretty cool too. Although for sure there'd be something pretty exciting about being able to tame a stink bug or a huge spider or get a ladybug as your main mount. That would be really cool. The game is going to be on the Games Pass on Xbox, so you'll have it for free if you've got that on day one, and it looks likely it won't be that expensive anyway if it is an early access game. I really like the looks of this one. It's got loads of stuff going for it. They've got an arachnophobia mode. You can turn off the spiders. If you really don't like them, you can turn it off. You don't have to worry about them invading and scaring your dreams. All in all, great game. Go and buy this for sure when it comes out. Give it a try, even in early access. It's got a lot more features, a lot more polish than some games already out there for years. My name is Jade. I give you guys every single survival game that comes to console. I talk to you about them, I tell you when it's coming out, I give you guides, tutorials and updates on your big favourite ones, as well as the brand new stuff that's coming to PC. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you like the video, and I'll see you back for another impressions video very soon.